Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to webinar 1 of 4. This is the start of a 4-part series to follow on from the actual presentations held across the state, beginning in Cairns, Townsville, Mackay. Unfortunately, we weren't able to present in Rockhampton, and finally in Brisbane, where we presented an open forum on the Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboarding Federation education, training and mentoring in management, administration and governance. So this first webinar is a continuation of those forums. My name is Andre Chewson. I'm from Pro Sport International, and on behalf of Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboard Federation, welcome to this first webinar. And I hope that through the next 3 webinars, you'll be able to take away some information, some thoughts, and some ideas on how you can potentially improve and safeguard your particular organisation. Now, as mentioned, this is the first of the 4 webinars, and tonight's webinar is actually going to focus in on the actual makeup of the Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboard Federation, commonly referred to as the QWWF, its relationship with the Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia organisation, commonly referred to as WAWA, and the ongoing relationship with the state divisions, the regions, and down into the clubs. So, without further ado, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians across the land on which we're meeting and pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. As mentioned, our forum this evening will start with an outline of the Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboard Federation. So the QWWF is a state-level organisation, and it's responsible for the management, administration and governance of the affiliated divisions within Queensland. So broadly, this means taking care of areas such as policy development in line with recommendations that come from the national governing organisation, of course that being WAWA, and also looking after procedures in how the various divisions are managing their respective sports, helping to provide funding support to enable various participation programs or education and training, such as coaching or driver training in boat accreditation courses being held. So as a broad organisation, they look after all of the affiliated divisions in regards to how they're developing their overall management, administration and governance. So how do they achieve this? Okay, they achieve this through support from the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport, or DTIS as they are commonly referred. Now, in order to continue to receive this support, the QWWF are required to report back to the department on what's happening within the affiliated divisions within Queensland. So obviously things like current participation numbers across various initiatives held. So if there's a come and try, then obviously the participation numbers there broken down into male, female, junior, senior, those types of things, even down to whether you have people from Indigenous background or those from what they call a culturally and linguistically diverse background, called CALD, is all information that DTIS are looking for so that they can structure further programs and further initiatives to supply funding support through QWWF down into the divisions and so on, into the regions and down into the clubs. So it's very important that when divisions are holding various programs, that they ensure that they keep accurate records that they can then provide back to QWWF, and in return provide that information back to the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport. The reason being is that because the QWWF actually are the state recognised state level organisation, and therefore they're able to prepare and submit funding applications to ensure ongoing funding support to carry out those various participation programs, the various education and training programs, accreditation programs, and so on and so forth. So therefore, the greater the reporting back from the divisions and the regions and the clubs, the better QWWF are able to prepare their funding applications, and also the potential to seek more funding support. Now, currently, the QWWF are being funded through the active industry base funding. This is a funding program which is being delivered over 2 years. This particular webinar is being funded through a program called the Active Industry Project Fund, and so QWWF were fortunate enough to receive funding to create a presentation style delivery where we were able to travel to the various regions, therefore then getting some face-to-face presentation time. And for those who are unable to attend these various seminars, these online webinars are here, but also these webinars will be recorded for those who would like to then later on jump in and have a look if they haven't been able to attend either the open face-to-face seminars or these webinars, but are still interested in having a look at what was delivered. Now, following on from that, QWWF are also the direct link with a national governing organisation, which is obviously Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia, WWF. Ken Yurdy, as the president of QWWF, communicates directly with WWF and communicates quite often on various policies and procedures that are being put together by Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia. For example, the member protection policy, which deals with sections such as images of children, the right to use a blue card, and many other issues dealing with risk management and other issues which are cropping up in the sporting landscape. As well, Ken attends on behalf of the QWWF the annual general meeting and other general meetings where discussion on the future direction of the sport is held. Ken then relays this information back to the divisions. So the QWWF is made up of a management committee of 3, but there are also representatives from each of the divisions on board to present their reports on what's happening across tournament water ski, barefoot water ski, wakeboard, and also disabled. So you can see there that there is quite a lot of linking across. Ultimately, it all goes back to the Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia organisation. So WWF are responsible for the creation, in line with the national sporting organisation of Sport Australia, which is the governing arm of the Australian government, for the creation and the dissemination of policies, procedures, rules and regulations, which, although generic in nature, apply across all sporting activities and organisations across Australia. So it's important in this day and age that as the amount of risk is identified, that all organisations are up to speed and up to date with managing their risk, ensuring that they are complying with all rules and regulations, and that they have procedures in place to safeguard and protect all of their members, whether this is through the blue card process here in Queensland or whether it's in undertaking a safety audit before competition to ensure that you're presenting a safe venue, across to ensuring that your infrastructure is safe and able to be used by those attending your venue. As well as this, there are various issues such as codes of conduct, which should be enacted across all organisations. These issues and these items will be discussed actually in a later webinar, webinar 2. So for those of you who have an interest in looking at developing these types of procedures and policies and conducts and codes, then I do recommend dropping in on webinar 2, which will be held next week, and you'll get a greater understanding of how all of these work. However, that is the broad outline of the Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboard Federation. So ideally, in a nutshell, they secure funding to support everyone in their activities. As long as the divisions are reporting back, then this funding will continue. Now, the communication channels and how they operate. It's a little bit of a convoluted way, but ultimately it is sort of straightforward. Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia are the governing organisations, so they sit at the top. They have a direct link to the Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboard Federation, as they do with all of the other state organisations across Australia. The QWWF then link down into the divisions. So we have water ski, barefoot and wakeboard. These are the 3 current recognised divisions under the umbrella of the QWWF. Disabled Water Ski operates under the banner of Water Ski Queensland. Now, underneath those, within Water Ski Queensland and Barefoot Water Ski Queensland, we have 3 regional structures, North, Central and South, and they are all managed by an elected committee. Wakeboard Queensland only operate as a statewide divisional management committee. However, for the other 2, they have broken theirs into the regions, who all operate their own various competitions, and then each of the divisions comes together to host their state championships, and as well, each of the divisions also is supporting and hosting national championships as well. Now, the relationship continues further down because across Queensland we have quite a number of water ski clubs, and they operate both as social and recreational clubs, which you can see here, or they are affiliated clubs, meaning that they host events such as the Lower Burdekin Water Ski Club, as an example, are an affiliated club and host tournaments from Northern Region events through to state championships. Now, each of these clubs has an affiliation with their respective national division, whether that is Tournament Water Ski Australia, Barefoot Water Ski, Wakeboard or Disabled Water Ski Australia, and that's in relation to members of those clubs registering to participate in sanctioned events. Now, as well as that, the social and recreational clubs, while not affiliated, do have members that actually participate, and so therefore they are also registering through the national divisions and ultimately into Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia. And this is how WAWA recruit and disseminate their various participation numbers, which they then send down to QWWF. And these are used for the various reporting back to the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport. So you can see there that there's quite a lot of linkage. However, it's fairly straightforward. but that is how the communication channels work. So the next thing to look at is, obviously we have talked about funding that is received by the QWWF, but QWWF also receive income from WWF, and this is then broken down as follows. So income is secured through funding and membership. So we can see over here that on the maroon we have DTIS, and there is currently the Active Industry Based Fund, for which QWWF have received funding for the next 2 years, and then this current project, the Active Industry Project Fund, which also Queensland Water Ski and Wakeboard Federation have received funding for, to deliver this particular project. On the other side, in the gold, we have Water Ski and Wakeboard Australia, and through the memberships received from Queensland, they then disseminate money back down to the QWWF. So QWWF, having received both the funding and the membership fees, then allocate these out to each of the affiliated divisions. And currently those divisions actually are Tournament Water Ski, Barefoot Water Ski, and Wakeboard Queensland. Now, in regards to membership fees, then that is a straight dissemination out from the QWWF. However, in regards to the funding, each of the divisions needs to advise QWWF of funding that they would like to source and secure for programs and projects that they would like to undertake. Over the next 12 to 18 months, the primary focus, as has been through this webinar, is about reducing risk, engaging divisions, regions and clubs into looking at long-term strategic planning, improving the overall governance and administration of each of the divisions, regions and the clubs, so that your capacity and capabilities to run safer and securer programs, events, activities is enhanced, and therefore mitigating that risk. So there's quite a lot of funding out there, and over the course of the next 12 months there will be a number of particular funding programs opening, to which there is great opportunity for those divisions to apply, clubs to apply, and also linking with QWWF to apply. One of those is the Active Industry Super Project Fund, which I believe will open around February 2024. And within that, there will be funding to support divisions to apply and host state and national championships over the next 2 years, but also to look at providing talent identification pathways regarding rural and regional athletes. So as an example, Wakeboard Queensland could be applying to the QWWF for support to run a state championships in, for instance, Mackay, and following on from that state championships, they would then be hosting a national training camp for identified athletes from within the sport, including athletes from rural and regional areas. Costs associated with both of those events could be covered off through the Active Industry Super Project Fund. So venue hire would be an applicable cost, for an example, within the tournament. Domestic airfares and accommodation to bring elite level coaches would be an applicable item that could be applied for within the talent pathways. So there is certainly scope there for each of the divisions to communicate to the QWWF and look at preparing a suitable application for this type of assistance. As well, there is also a program titled Active Women and Girls Program, which is also opening and which will close in March of 2024. And there's funding for clubs of up to $7,500 to deliver participation programs focused on engaging more women and more girls into your particular sport, whether it's barefoot, whether it's wakeboard, or whether it's tournament, or even disabled. As well as that, there is a further level of funding only able to be applied for by the QWWF, which has up to $25,000 available, and that can support those divisions in marketing or promoting the various participation programs being held across the clubs affiliated through whichever division it may be, barefoot, wakeboard, or tournament. As well as that, opening next year will be a program released by the Department of Tourism, Industry and Sport, which has an amount of $2,500 called the Active Club Program, and that's available to clubs all across Queensland who can apply for that amount, and you can use that to, say, purchase equipment. And so you can then suddenly, instead of having $7,500, you could have $10,000, while QWWF is looking after your marketing with the $25,000 over the top. So there are certainly plenty of opportunities. These all link back to improving your capabilities and your capacity. Therefore, as you grow and develop, that means that the QWWF can go back and apply for more funding through their base funding programs to support and develop each of the divisions across the state of Queensland. As well as that, there are other funding programs external to the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport, and these can be applied for, whether that's through the clubs, through the divisions, or through QWWF. There are too many to name, and so therefore I'll just leave that as being there is plenty of funding out there for those who are keen on looking for support. However, be aware that in some of those programs, only the QWWF can apply. In other programs, you need to be an incorporated not-for-profit organisation, and therefore the majority of those applications would be applied for through clubs. Now, you can go on and you can check out the role of the QWWF by linking and logging on to their website, www.qwwf.com.au, or if you're interested in gathering more information, you can send an email to admin@qwwf.com.au, and I'm sure Ken will come back with some information that you may be seeking. So that sort of takes care of how the organisation works in regards to the funding and the membership. And you saw there in the previous screen how those communication channels and how those memberships are administered and worked through. So basically from WAWA down to QWWF, down into the divisions, into the regions, and into the clubs. So that concludes this presentation for this evening. I hope that it's provided you with a bit of a background on the role of the QWWF and how it sits in the umbrella of the overall national organisation and how it sits in as the management committee for the divisions within Queensland. Now, if anyone has any questions, then I will stay online and I can answer those. If not, I hope you've enjoyed this first webinar and look forward to seeing you at our second one, which will be held next week, and also our third one, which will focus in on administration. And our final webinar to complete the series, we'll focus in on governance. So there's certainly plenty there for everyone to join in, and hopefully from each of those webinars, you'll be able to take something away to help grow and develop your particular organisation. All right, I can see that there are no questions, so I'll stay online for a little bit longer, but if you are, yep,